Okay. Backlog on GAC 3s. I fucking hate GAC 3s. Okay, so Apple is doing a 4-for-1 split. Um, Splits mean very little, in fact, nothing, with regard to the valuation of the company. All a split does is water down existing shares and lower the share price to a point where retail investors think that it is quote unquote cheaper, and therefore are more tempted to buy it. If you are not well versed in the market and you look at a stock you want to own that is at $400 or now $500 versus being $100 or $125, of course you're more inclined to take a bite of the apple at $100 or $125. The problem with that is that if that's done by a split, it really has no meaning. It has almost no meaning. It doesn't change the financials. It doesn't change the balance sheet. All it does is change the number of shares and the share price, and, well, by extension, the earnings per share. But doesn't change revenue, doesn't change outlook, except for maybe an analyst's perspective in terms of the share price. So it doesn't change anything. But because retail investors are much more likely to take a bite at the apple at a lower share price, stocks often split to entice retail investors. So when Apple announced their 4-for-1 split, the price was hovering around $400 a share, and it is now over $500 a share, and that is because a lot of people have bought the stock in the lead up to the split, because they'll have 4 times as many shares later, and they anticipate retail investors waiting to buy the stock at the lower share price. So retail investors actually, in a way, get screwed because they think they're getting a deal, but they're not getting a deal, and a lot of the money is being made at their expense. Now, in the case of Apple, less so at their expense, because Apple is one of the healthiest and, in fact, the biggest, by market cap anyway, American company there is. And they have managed to stay top of the totem pole for a very, 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 very long time. So, yeah, that's what's going on with that. Tesla also announced a stock split. I would be apprehensive to ever own Tesla, despite the fact that it has had a meteoric rise since it IPO'd about 10 years ago, almost exactly 10 years ago, in fact. Not because I don't believe in the company, not because I don't necessarily believe in the stock. Elon Musk scares the shit out of me. He is very Trumpian in so far as his tweets can be scary. I mean, he has previously gone on record on Twitter and said that he thinks Tesla's share price is too high. He has said that, he was thought about taking Tesla private at like $400 something a share, which is a lot lower than the share price was at the time. And even though neither of those things really have any weight, it still moves the share price. And I don't like that. I don't like that I can't or wouldn't be able to trust him as CEO, because, one bad tweet and you can lose a lot of money. So that's just not something I'm interested in doing or being a part of. That's why, and it's purely qualitative. But that's why when you look at owning a stock, you have to consider management. You have to consider who the CEO, CFO, COO, really just the CEO, but sometimes you want to look at those other things, who they are. Are they reputable? Do they are they manic tweeters? For the most part, people aren't like that. Do they have bad track records? Yeah, so sometimes you do want to look at things like that. I mean, Wells Fargo had one of the worst management teams for the longest time, and the company and stock suffered because of that poor management. You look at JP Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon has been the boss there for a very long time throughout the Great Recession of 2007, 8, and 9. And under his management, JP Morgan did not need to take troubled asset relief money from the government. They were, however, forced to take TARP money, but they paid it back immediately, and they did not want to take it. But the government said, no, everyone is taking it. Shut up, take the money. But they didn't need it. And JP Morgan has done exceedingly well since the Great Recession up until now, when, of course, it's hard for anyone to make money, much less banks, when rates are near zero and there's just not a whole lot of industry going on. Although they did make a lot of money in trading fees because people have been trading stocks willy-nilly for the past 6 months. Anyway, so yeah, you'd have to look at management sometimes, or it shouldn't be a deciding factor, but it should be, if you're on the fence about a company or a stock and you look and see that management, might have a couple or even one unsavory character that's known to go rogue or have rogue tweets or something like that, that's something that you may want to consider. Again, not knocking Tesla as a company, not knocking Tesla as a stock necessarily, but Elon Musk at the helm and his manic periodic rantings is just not something that I want to be a part of. If the president were a civilian and was the CEO of a company, I wouldn't want to own it. It could be Microsoft, it could be Apple. If the president, after he's president, steps down and becomes CEO of Microsoft or Apple, I'm not going to own either of those stocks, because I don't want the share price to be dictated by errant tweets. I just don't want it. It's not something, I don't want that kind of volatility. They say, no such thing as bad press, but sometimes when you're dealing with stocks and shareholders, it can be, because people get nervous, and the stock market is often based on the irrational whims of people. So yeah, I just don't want to, I don't want to deal with that. I'd much rather have management that has, or have level heads, and just are focused on increasing shareholder value. Not tweeting that they think that their company is too expensive, because that's retarded. Tech has been leading the charge the whole way ever since the beginning of the pandemic. They are not stopping today. Apple and Microsoft, and I think Amazon, are all hitting fresh all-time highs today. And ordinarily, I would say that it has to end at some point, right? But with the way things are going, and more people looking to work remotely, using Microsoft Teams, for instance, cloud-based work, they could have more room to run. They really, really could. And Microsoft now supposedly might be interested in buying all of TikTok as opposed to just the United States operations for TikTok, which would be a much larger deal. And there's some speculation that if that's the case, then TikTok could leave Google's cloud services and exclusively do cloud services with Microsoft Azure, which has been growing tremendously. So, I mean, sure, that's definitely one of the reasons why Microsoft is continually hitting fresh all-time highs. So yeah, these mega cap tech stocks could very well have room to run, even though they are at all-time highs. And if you look at their trailing 12-month charts, most of these mega cap tech stocks are well above their pre-COVID trading ranges. Like well above. Apple and Microsoft especially. Actually, Amazon too. All three of them well above. I don't follow Google regularly because I don't own it. I don't own Amazon. I just see it every now and then. But they are all well above their pre-COVID trading ranges. Switching over to the current situation with the two hurricanes that are about to hit the south and southeast. Everyone try and stay safe. Looks like Laura is really dangerous. Looks like Laura is going to be a Category 4 and hit Texas, Houston area, and Louisiana. Louisiana always gets hit, which has implications, many implications, least, not the least of which safety, but, and I mean, homes are going to be destroyed. There is a lot of oil and gas in that area. Those guys are going to have trouble with their rigs. It's already sent the price of oil up. Although I will say the futures contracts for gas in September are down, which is kind of surprising. Yeah, the headline is Laura shutters 84% of offshore U.S. oil production in the Gulf. So that is being reflected in a lot of energy and energy stocks, most of whom have already been crushed over the last 6 months, as almost no one is driving. So rough waters figuratively and literally for them.